Back in 2009, an independent little slasher called Orphan floated under the radar and quickly became a bit of a cult classic for horror and slasher fans. Now in 2022, we get Orphan First Kill, a prequel showing how the killer Esther got her start. What's up, everybody, and welcome to my review of Orphan First Kill. This is, for some, a long-awaited follow-up to the original Orphan, a movie that I think is actually criminally underrated. Just did my review of that a couple of days ago if you'd like to check that out. And this is a film that has debuted in select theaters, but it's also on Paramount Plus. So if you're a subscriber to that service, you can watch this movie right now before or after you finish this review. Now, this review will be completely spoiler-free, but towards the end, I will go black and white and discuss things that are plot reveals, because I don't think I'm able to get all of my biggest thoughts on this film out without discussing specifics. So you will get that warning. I encourage you, please check out this movie before you watch that section of the review. After you see it, come back and discuss the spoilerific details with me in the comment section. And keep your eyes peeled down there too, because spoilers are going to be happening. To be completely honest and transparent, aside from the fact that I am a big fan of that original film, I had lower than low expectations for this prequel. One strike against it right off the bat is that it's a prequel. I've talked about this numerous times on this channel. I don't tend to like prequels. They don't really work for me more times than not. So there's one thing. Two, it's been so many years since the original film that it didn't give me the most confidence that there was a great idea that was brewing this film. It just kind of felt like Paramount might have been just looking through their catalog, figuring out what they can make a quick buck on. Add in the fact that it was premiering on Paramount Plus, that kind of reinforced that preconceived notion that I had. The director that signed on to this film, I'm not a fan of his previous work, so no confidence earned there. Everything about this film to me basically was a red flag. Well, color me shocked, because I just watched this thing and unfortunately a few slips along the way kept it from being quite that good, but this came pretty damn close to being as good as the original for me personally. But before we get into the good and the bad of this movie, if you want to have skin that's glistening so well that you could pass off as an 11-year-old, be sure to check out the sponsor of this video, Geology. Geology is a 9-time award-winning men's skincare company. All you do is go onto their website, take a 30-second quiz, and they send you a kit of products that are customized for your individual needs. No matter what your skincare needs, if you're trying to reduce acne or oiliness, if you're trying to get rid of that puffiness underneath your eyes in the morning, or just reduce the appearance of your wrinkles as you've gotten older, Geology has all top-notch products that will help you achieve those skincare goals. I chose a kit that is geared towards helping me reduce the puffiness underneath my eyes in the morning, which is something I deal with almost every day that I have an irregular amount of sleep. My kit came with a Vital Morning Face Cream, a Nourishing Eye Cream, a repairing night cream right before you go to bed, and 2 individual bottles of everyday face wash, one for the shower and one for the sink, or the gym, or your locker. Nobody wants to have to run back and forth. Over the past year, I've used 3 different products trying to reduce this puffiness issue, and I have had the exact same result in the end. I don't notice a gigantic difference in the morning, and every cream that I have used really irritates the skin underneath my eyes and even burns my eyes. And since using Geology products, I've not only noticed a difference in the morning, but I have never had any irritation in my skin. If you're interested in checking out Geology, they will send you a 30-day trial kit complete with 5 items, including the 2 separate bottles of face wash. That's a $50 value that is only going to cost you $15. Head to geology.com and take their free skincare quiz to save up to 70% off of your 30-day trial. Even better, join their new Geology Galaxy community for more daily tips, giveaways, and more at discord.gg/geology. That's Geologie. And thank you to Geology for sponsoring today's video. Starting off with the positives regarding Orphan First Kill. One of the bigger concerns that I had walking into this is, are they going to effectively be able to portray Isabelle Fuhrman as being a little girl again? I mean, the first film, she actually was a little girl. She was like 12 years old, so it was very easy for her to look like she was that old, and they had to do all of the practical makeup and all of the movie trickery in the last 15 minutes of the first film to portray her as somebody that could look like she actually is in her 30s. They have the reverse problem in this film, to where she definitely looks like somebody that's in her 20s. And so now all of the practical trickery and movie magic has to be done throughout the entire film to effectively make this grown woman look like she's 12 years old. And I was concerned about that. I was like, is there going to be an uncanny valley that's just going to be way too hard for me to buy into the fact that this is the same character years previous to the first film? And I was so impressed at how well they were able to pull that off. Using all practical work. They came out and said they didn't do any CGI, no de-aging, none of that shit that I still think they have not quite figured that out yet, so that makes it even worse of an uncanny valley to me. The fact that they stayed practical and used things like platform boots to make all the other stars taller and, you know, standing on stools and things like that, and the way that they shoot at certain angles to keep her significantly shorter and keep her looking younger, I thought they did a damn good job at working through that problem. And Isabelle Fuhrman just kills it in this role yet again, no pun intended. I mean, it's a little bit more impressive in the first film because she was 12 years old at the time, but she slips right back in to Esther, and she still has all of the different layers that she nailed so well in that first film, to where she looks so sweet and innocent and unassuming, and then there's also that really dark and fucked up twisted version of her, and she portrays all of that so well yet again.
Hello, Mommy. Thank you, Mommy. I know, Mommy.
Possibly the biggest shock for me, which I will talk more about in my spoiler section, is that for a prequel that on paper seems like it's going to be very predictable, it's going to show the story that we heard about in the first film, where she went in with this family and had a crush on the father and eventually went psycho, killed them all and burned the house down. It felt like we're just going to go through the motions and see that, and it's just going to be cool to see Isabelle Fuhrman back in the role again. That's about the most we can expect. This thing did such a great job at totally pulling the rug out from under me and completely subverting my expectations with the story that they were actually telling. And that is something that makes this a prequel that stands out amongst most of them for me. Now, I'm usually somebody that I don't get into prequels because I feel like I already know everything that's going to happen. I know exactly where the characters are going to end up by the end. I know exactly what story they're going to tell, because typically they're forming out this story that we were hinted at in a previous film. There's not a whole lot of surprises or shocks, and I just don't get engaged with that type of storyline. Orphan First Kill completely goes against that negative. Orphan First Kill sets you up for that type of experience and then gives you something completely unexpected.
If you're not Esther, who are you?
I also thought that Julia Stiles did a really good job in this movie too. Now, she seems to be an actress that for some reason I see people talk negatively on more than positively, but I've always liked her. Maybe it's the fact that I grew up in the 90s and I grew up with 10 Things I Hate About You and all of that, but she's an actress that I've always enjoyed. And this kind of taps into her acting ability that she showed like on Dexter season 5, where she starts to dip into some of the more darker territory, things that you haven't seen so much in her career. And while not quite reaching the highs of Vera Farmiga, which is a very high bar, I think that stacked up against somebody like Isabelle Fuhrman, she's somebody that definitely holds her own throughout this film. And finally, I love the fact that this film carried on the themes of the first film and just being wonderfully twisted, shockingly twisted. Some of the things that they explore here, some of the things that characters do, some of the things that you find out about certain characters, it is so dark and twisted, and this did not lose a drip of that from the first film. That's the big thing that I always thought was so impressive about the original Orphan, was that you have this traditional creepy kid movie that was never afraid to go really fucked up places. They always feel like they gotta tether things and they gotta stray away from too much darkness, too much violence, because at the end of the day, it's a kid and we don't want to go too taboo, and Orphan just said, nope, we're going there. Orphan First Kill continues that trend in the best possible way. Now moving on to the negatives, and unfortunately there were a couple of things that I felt like they stumbled with in this movie that put it a good bit below the first film for me. The first one being the relationship that's supposed to be budding between Esther and the father of this family, not only with the preconceived story that we were given in the first film, to where she was in love with this guy and having the same type of plan, same type of relationship that she had with Sarsgaard's character in 2009, but even the way that they portray it in the film, where it's this father-daughter relationship, it just, there's something there that never really felt like they connected as characters. I don't know if it was the two actors just didn't have the chemistry. I don't know if maybe they just didn't give them enough time on screen and decided to focus much more on her relationship with Julia Stiles, but whatever angle they were going for with Esther's relationship with this guy, I just felt like that was the weakest part of the film. And kind of going along with that, the last 10 minutes or so of this movie really feels rushed. It really feels like they're just trying to race to the end and go to the credits. And it sucks because there's some things that are set up in that final act. There is some situations that they bring to regarding this father character and some decision that he is supposed to make that it feels like they robbed that guy of the decision. They rob him of the scene that would have been a really fucked up cherry on top of the cake for the end of this film. And so the final act to me really did fall flat. It was the weakest act of the entire film. And that's unfortunate because that's the taste that you leave the movie with. So you're like, that was so good. But at the end there, I don't know, it didn't go down quite as well as I thought it was going to. So I'll talk more about it in my spoilers, but this felt like there was opportunities that were just set up and intended and were right there for the taking, and they kind of just fast forwarded through it. Now I'm going to start talking about some spoilers. If you don't want to be spoiled, just fast forward this video to the rating, and I'll give you all of my final overall thoughts. Now, I will say, the first 30 to 35 minutes of this film, I was very mixed to negative on this film because the initial setup is that Esther breaks out of the Saarne Institute and she poses as this missing girl, Esther, and integrates herself back into this family that has been missing and looking for their daughter for, like 4 or 5 years, something like that. I don't know if they told specifically how much time, but it's been a long fucking time. And so she integrates her way back into this family, and from the moment that she is on screen with this family, I didn't buy it. I was looking at it and I'm going, okay, the father seems a little emotional, but Julia Stiles feels like she doesn't even care that her daughter is back. The brother acts like he doesn't even care, like he's hanging out with his friends and just going off and blowing off his sister that he's supposed to have loved and been missing for 4 or 5 years. I was so detached that it was bugging me to no end, to where just as a parent, I'm sitting there getting frustrated, like, how the fuck can you not just like embrace your kid with all this emotion? Like, if my kid was lost for that long, I would be a wreck when I found out that they were still alive and that they were coming home, let alone when I actually saw them in person. So I was just so disconnected in the first 30 minutes that I was ready to get on camera and just not like this film whatsoever, unless they really picked it up in the second half of the film. Well, holy fuck did they pick it up, because the scene where it's revealed that Julia Stiles knows that she is not Esther and in fact plotted with her son that accidentally or purposefully killed the real Esther to get rid of the body, and it's just all this really fucked up family twisted plot to where they only brought Esther back to make the dad happy and they know she's a fucking con. My jaw was practically on the floor. I said in my review of the 2009 original that unfortunately I had that ending spoiled for me, so I didn't get to have that initial like reaction to when it showed that she was actually 33 years old and not a child. This film totally made up for that. When it got to that scene where Esther or Lena, whatever her real name is just stabbing the fuck out of that detective and says, "How the hell did you know?" The mother didn't even know, and he goes, "But she did." And then she just empties that whole clip into him. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And for the next like 3 minutes, when they reveal everything that's actually going on with this family and what Julia Stiles, who she actually is and what the plot, I was sitting there like, oh, this is fucked up, and I love it. And what I loved about it is not only the fact that it was unexpected, but it totally reframes the events that we were told about in the first film in a good way, not a way that lessens that film in any way, which is a very, very tight line to walk for a filmmaker and a writer. But above all else, this movie does what Don't Breathe 2 completely failed at, where you completely reframe this iconic twisted villain as kind of the protagonist of the story, but Orphan First Kill never dilutes the fact or loses the fact that Esther is still completely fucked up and evil. And so now you have this film that felt like on its surface it's gonna be Esther as this evil person systematically taking out this family, and we're gonna end just leading right into the first film. And now it becomes this story to where you have one fucked up person stuck in the house and blackmailed by 2 other completely fucked up people, and it's just a battle of wills for the next half of the film. I thought that that was such a brilliant, unexpected, genius way to do a prequel to the first Orphan and not just have it be paint by numbers, the same exact setup. And elaborating a little bit more on the one piece of it that was a bit negative for me, when it got to the end and it showed that it was, you know, Julia Stiles versus Esther, and they're both hanging on that pipe, and I was getting like the good son vibes. I was like, oh, he's gonna have to make a choice, and obviously he's gonna pick Esther. He's gonna let Julia Stiles, his wife, die, who's kind of an evil bitch, so who cares, to save this person who is not his daughter. That's gonna be totally twisted and cool. And as soon as he walks up to her, like the movie takes the choice out of his hands and she just falls. And I just thought that was so strange. I was like, what? It was right there. Why did you pull back at that last second? Like, why are you not going for it? That would have been so much more effective and interesting and fucked up if he had to actually make that choice. But the movie just makes, you know, gravity made the choice for him. I didn't like the way that played out. So from that moment till the moment the credits rolled, it went down at least a half a star for me, because that just kind of took the wind out of my sails. But other than that, I just loved the twist and the reveal and the things that they did to subvert my expectations in this movie. So overall, guys, I thought that this was actually a very impressive prequel. I think that it was shockingly twisted in all the best ways, and it's a really good companion piece to the first film that actually enhances that first film without taking anything away from it, which is very rare for a long gestated movie. Well, that's it for this one, guys. Be sure to check the video description and check out Geology. If you enjoyed this review and want to check out more, click over here for the rest of my 2022 movie reviews, and I'm also going to put my review of the first Orphan up here to check that out. Please like and share this video and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything in the future. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.